Making health care affordable to all Americans has been a recent political focus. What does the story of Henrietta Lacks and her family add to this discussion?
In the book, it discussed how Henrietta Lacks' family didn't have insurance and that they couldn't make anything out of all the research that the scientists were doing with their cells. So nowadays, with the health focus that there is, like with the new health law that they're trying to pass, I think that from back then they would have made a little money with the research that had been processed with their cells. So I do think that it has changed from back then, and that it's a positive note.
Henrietta and her family face.
Henrietta faced the challenge of having cancer and being misdiagnosed. She didn't receive a lot of information from the doctors, but at that time it was not, it wasn't mandatory for them to tell her things about the treatment that she was undergoing. And then her family faced not knowing about the cells, how long they were alive. They were traumatized by the fact that their mom was dehumanized, and that her cells were just talked about, but no one knew where they had come from and that they came from an actual person.
The book.
I thought that the parts about the cells and the biology aspect of the book might have been a little confusing for some people. However, I liked when they talked about the parts about her life and knowing her story.
What might have been different if she had been in a middle or upper middle class?
I think she might have gotten more attention from the doctors, but I think they still would have taken her cells because George Guy was taking everyone's cells, so I don't think the class mattered about the cells.
How do you think her family felt knowing a white woman wrote the book?
I think that they had a lot of distrust for white people since all the doctors were white and a lot of the people and the scientists who had been hiding all this Gila evidence and things that they knew about Gila from them and not giving them the proper compensation they deserved were white. So they had a strong distrust for white people. So seeing that she was white, I feel like they automatically distrusted her, and it took them a long time to trust her, not only because she was white, but because she was interested in the science aspect, but she was different than all the other ones, and I think they finally trusted her when they realized that she was in it for them and not for the money.
It was unfair that the doctor didn't explain to her what her main problem even was.
At the time, I don't think she was undereducated, so she wouldn't have known what was wrong with her, even if he did try to explain to her about cancer and cells. And so regardless of if he explained or asked for her consent, I don't think it would have changed anything, because at the time everyone just trusted their doctors and didn't question anything that they said.
Would you have read this book if it had not been assigned to read for school?
Probably not, because I'm not a big fan of biology and cells and stuff like that.
Thanks.
Henrietta Lacks died in 1951, but her cancer cells are still alive today. Do you think they carry some essence of Henrietta?
I think now they do. Well, obviously biologically they do in some way, but I think now they do within the minds of everyone, because now that her story is out there and everyone knows about it, well, I mean everyone who's read the book knows about it, then her essence is still alive through all the cells, and also in the book they were saying that her cells help cure various diseases and everything, so I think she's still alive in many ways.
Do you think it was fair that they took her Gila cells without her consent?
I think it was, because they did it all the time back then, and if they never took her cells, then they would never have found the polio vaccine or anything else, and I think it was just normal back then, and people are only freak out about it now because of everything.
Do you think doctors and researchers of the past had a fundamentally different view of people than they do today?
I think doctors and researchers do have a different view back then than they do today. I know for biology majors who are going into pre-med, they need to take psychology as a pre-rock because it's important nowadays to be a little intact with your patients, and so that you have a little emotional view with them and not being like a cold heart doctor to them, so you can understand the family's point of view of like what this patient's going through. So I think it's different from back then than it is from today.